We're always hearing about these big economic numbers: GDP, inflation, interest rates. But of all of them, there's one that just hits differently. It's the one that's deeply personal. Exactly. It's not some abstract number floating around the news. It represents real jobs, real livelihoods, and the well-being of millions of our friends and neighbors. It is a number with a very, very human story. So you'll be watching TV or scrolling online, and you'll see a number like this pop up, 3.5%. Just a single, clean percentage that's supposed to tell us everything we need to know about the job market. But what's actually hiding inside that percentage? Who are we counting? And maybe more importantly, who are we not counting? So today, let's deconstruct the unemployment rate and find out what's really going on. Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, the very first thing we have to do is figure out who's on the team and who's on the sidelines. It all starts with defining the groups that make up our workforce. We start with the biggest category there is, the working age population. In the US, this is basically everyone 16 and older, with a few exceptions. We're not counting people who are in, say, a prison or a hospital, or those on active military duty. Just think of it as the entire pool of potential workers out there. Now, from that giant pool, we zoom in to a more specific group, the labor force. This includes everyone who is either employed or unemployed. And believe me, that distinction between being unemployed and just not having a job is absolutely crucial. And here it is, maybe the most important rule of the whole thing. To be officially counted as unemployed, it's not enough to just be out of a job. You must also be actively looking for one. So if you've given up your search, for whatever reason, you're no longer in the labor force, and poof, you disappear from that headline unemployment number. This diagram really helps it all click into place. See that big group at the bottom? That's our entire working age population. From there, it funnels up. A portion of them are in the labor force, and that group is then split between the employed and the unemployed. Everyone else over on the right is considered not in the labor force. We're talking about full-time students, retirees, stay-at-home parents. You get the idea. So now that we know who goes in which bucket, let's move on. Let's see how we take these groups of people and turn them into the 3 key stats that give us a pulse on the job market.
First things first, the big one. How do we get from a raw count of people to that clean percentage we see on the news?
Well, the formula's right here. You take the number of unemployed people and you divide it by the total labor force. That's the employed people plus the unemployed people. Now, this is so important. It's not a percentage of the entire country's population. It's a percentage of those who are actively in the game. But the unemployment rate is only one piece of the puzzle. The second key indicator gives us a much wider view, the labor force participation rate. This tells us what share of the entire working age population is actually in the labor force. You can think of it as a measure of our total workforce engagement. And number 3 is the employment to population ratio. This one is as direct as it gets. What percentage of the whole working age population currently has a job? Simple as that. Each of these 3 numbers paints a slightly different part of the overall picture. And looking at these rates over time can reveal some really profound changes in our society. I mean, look at this. You can see the steady, dramatic rise in women's labor force participation starting back in the 50s, while the rate for men actually declined a bit. That shift completely reshaped the American economy. Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating, in my opinion. That single unemployment number we see, it's actually a blend of different types of unemployment. See, not everyone is out of work for the same reason. So let's start with the type we're all most familiar with. See how the blue line spikes up dramatically during those gray shaded bars? Well, those gray bars represent economic recessions. When the economy struggles, unemployment goes up. Simple enough, right? This is what economists call cyclical unemployment. It's tied directly to the business cycle. Think about auto workers laid off during the 2008 recession, or all the retail and restaurant workers who lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the economy catches a cold, cyclical unemployment is what goes up.
But here's the really key insight. Even when the economy is firing on all cylinders, the unemployment rate never hits 0. There is always a baseline level of joblessness. This baseline is what's known as the natural rate of unemployment, and it's made up of 2 other distinct types. So on the left, we have frictional unemployment. You can think of this as the normal, healthy churn of a dynamic economy. People moving between jobs, new college grads entering the workforce. It's usually short-term, and it's not really a bad thing. But on the right, we have structural unemployment, and this is a much more serious problem. This happens when there's a fundamental mismatch between the skills workers have and the jobs that are actually available. Think of a coal miner in a world that's shifting to renewable energy, or a factory worker whose job has been automated.
So, let's bring this all back to the people behind these numbers. Let's finish up by looking at the specific personal circumstances that lead someone to be counted as unemployed in the first place. The official survey actually sorts the unemployed into 4 distinct groups. You have job losers, which is pretty self-explanatory. They lost their job. Job leavers, who quit on their own. New entrants, who are often young people looking for that very first job. And re-entrants, who are coming back to the workforce after taking some time away. And this chart gives you a snapshot of what that breakdown looks like in a relatively healthy economy. Job losers are typically the largest group, followed by people who are re-entering the workforce. Now, if we were in a deep recession, that job losers bar would grow much, much larger as layoffs pile up. So the whole point is this, that single percentage isn't just one story. It's thousands. It's the frictional unemployment of a recent grad who's excited for their future. It's the structural unemployment of a factory worker worried about theirs. And it's the cyclical unemployment of someone laid off in a downturn. So the next time you see that headline rate, ask yourself, what story will you see hiding inside the number?